Am I audible? Online walo? Okay, so did you revise what we discussed yesterday? So what we discussed? So we discussed virtue ethics, in which we know that virtues are result of habitual action. Whatever we do consistently, they become part of our character, and that is how values transform into characteristic traits. So positive characteristic traits are known as virtues, and the negative characteristic traits are known as vices. And attitude, if you suppose you have some positive attitude, moral attitude, for that moral attitude to continuous influence your behavior, ultimately then that moral attitude will also become part of your trait only. Yes, because all of us know the attitude and behavior are two distinct things. If your behavior is always guided by your attitude only, for example, if you are patriarchal attitude and continuously your behavior is guided by that only, then you will become a patriarch. Understood or not? So that will become part of your behavior. So virtue ethics basically talked about the fundamental characteristic traits and that are result of habitual action, and that is why whenever we are deciding on the ethicality of an human action, we are focusing on what kind of person we would like to become. Understood or not? So that is what characteristic trait is all about. That is what virtue ethics is all about, that action is right, that will make us a virtuous person or a person with sound character. And that is how it emphasizes on the role of continuous behavior. Basically, for something to become part of your character will require lifelong practice. So it cannot be the case that you want yourself to be called, let's say, honest person, then you have to practice honesty consistently. You cannot say that today is odd day and I will not practice honesty on odd days. Okay, understood? Sawan chal raha hai to I non-veg nahi khayenge. You will still be considered a non-vegetarian only. So basically that is what it is. So for you to be called something, you have to practice that continuously. So continuity is very much important. That is why whenever we are talking about debate between ethics in public relation and private relationship, it is important that we highlight the importance of continuity of behavior both in public life and in private life, and that is why there cannot be watertight separation between ethics in public life and private life. We have discussed that argument. And it also highlights the importance of role model, because we want to become someone, we want to become someone who is having lot of positive trait. We want to become civil service topper because let's say we are inspired by Gaurav Agarwal, we are inspired by Ash Srivastav, so we want to become someone like him. So basically we want to emulate their traits only. Understood? So that is how it highlights the importance of role model. And whenever you are writing your answers in the importance of family or importance of education institution value inculcation, there also you can quote this, that a role modeling is emphasized by virtue ethics also. In particular Aristotle also, that role modeling is very much important to inculcate right set of virtues. Understood? And then we added some specific concept with respect to these thinkers. Socrates talk about dialectic method. Yes, dialectic method is basically a way to find out the truth, because the fundamental assumption of all these Greek thinkers is that the evil, it results from ignorance only. The only good is knowledge and the only evil is ignorance. And that is why we must always consistently strive for knowledge only. And for that, we must oppose the idea. We must develop antithesis to the thesis. And that's how we arrive at the synthesis. Understood or not? And after that, we went through Plato. For Plato, we understood the importance of allegory of cave illustration, and that highlights the importance of truth, importance of reasoning, that how ignorance can lead to very wrong interpretation that is far, far from reality. Similarly, we also talked about philosopher king. That is nothing but a euphemism, that what kind of rulers we should have. Basically, the rulers with sound character, virtues, and wisdom. Understood? Another thing that we discussed was that the concept of tripartite souls, that the reason should be able to govern bodily desires and emotions. Understood? So that is what we discussed from the perspective of Plato. After that, we talked about Aristotle. In Aristotle, golden mean was very, very important. That virtue is nothing but the golden mean between two extremes. One is deficiency, another is excess. So golden mean is very much relevant, that we have already discussed from the context of individual perspective, organizational perspective, the perspective of nations also, that whether we should interfere or whether we should keep the distance, that we already have discussed. So that is what we understood about virtue ethics. After that we discussed justice. Justice as fairness concept is given by John Rawls. So John Rawls says that to create a just society, there has to be just institution, and to create just institutions, you must follow the original position should be that you must have wheel of ignorance, in which you are you don't know what will be your position basically after you make that institution, and that will make you think rationally. So basically the morality or the ethicality will be the result of rational thinking, because if you think really logically, then you will find that there is no place for untouchability, there is no place for patriarchal rigidity on the women's freedom, because it is not just logical and rational. Understood? So that is the basis of morality in the context of John Rawls. So we actually create all the institutions by following wheel of ignorance, and when we create those institutions will try to maximize liberty for each and every individual. Yes, so that we can maximize overall liberty. And the important part is that it is not just about mechanically ensuring the equality before law or legal equality. It is actually asking the institutions that you should provide equal opportunity in terms of acquiring those skills also, so that they can compete or they can come out of the structural rigidity, in terms of whatever equation they are facing in the society. And if at all there is a differences, if at all there is an inequality, that inequality should favor weaker section of the society. So that is what we discussed from the context of John Rawls. Understood? What is that? I'm not audible. What are you saying? Arey bhai bata. Am I not audible? Okay, the concept of tripartite soul we can mention in the context that where we should be able to govern our desires and emotion, that how reason or rationality should govern that. And that is how we can use that in answer. Anger and intolerance are enemy of correct understanding. I gave you the specific quotation, okay, and that is a UPSC question only, and in that only I told you that how you can write that how reason should be able to govern your anger, that is an emotion only, and that will only allow you to have correct understanding or right knowledge. I gave you this specific example yesterday also. अब revise नहीं करते हैं perhaps. Sir, how and where to apply allegory cave concept? Something you should leave to your own wisdom also, Udit. Not everything can be spoon-fed. Allegory of cave basically talks about the importance of ignorance, that if you are ignorant, that how mistaken you are at times, that how mistaken you are, that what you consider real is actually not real. So allegory of cave can be used in all the context where ignorance is breeding so many problems. So allegory of the cave concept is basically talking about importance of reasoning, importance of truth, importance of knowledge. So now you know where to apply it. I expect better doubt than this. Dedication is a component of ethical altruism. Ethical altruism, yes, because for civil servant it is important. The primary important is selflessness. So if you are truly dedicated to public service, then it will require you to be selfless. So yes, ethical altruism is implied, that you have to take care of others, and that is why you talk about COVID warrior, you talk about soldiers, you talk about firefighters, you talk about police constable, all those people who are coming in the harm way willfully. They know that it might get them killed, still they are doing their duty. So they are doing it because they are supposed to do it. They have to act selflessly. So when you are acting selflessly, altruism is already implied in the context of civil services. And dedication to public service just means that you are following that very passionately. Power failure here. Okay, ऊपर दिखाइए जरा. Please scroll. बस. अरे no. Below. Yes. Sir, how can we justify actions which are taken based on rules or commitment as free will? For example, traffic police constable following rules mechanically, Bhishma Pitama following his oath. I don't know which part of me you don't understand. When I'm saying this, that traffic constable justified that, that he was following the rules merely. It is his perspective, not mine perspective. He was punished later for that. And we always criticize Bhishma Pitama for not speaking against Draupadi Chirharan. So he's criticized for that. I'm just explaining their perspective, and that is wrong. So I don't know what is the problem here. Why are you not able to understand? Yesterday only I told you a human action is governed by so many sources of ethics. So I give you the example that your religion may tell you something, your parents may tell you something, your friends may tell you something. So if you are only following your religion, and you are following that in a very orthodox manner, then you might be doing wrong, although in your eyes you are doing right. And then you would like to justify that I am following the religion, blah, 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 but you are doing wrong only. Scroll below. So is there any criticism? Unexamined life is not worth living idea. Yes, the criticism is there. Yes, that we will discuss in the question answer. Unexamined life is not worth living. That is a bit actually harsh statement that we will discuss later. Yes, criticism is there. What are the downsides of developmental administration? Okay, you think. Okay, I think, okay, I will discuss the next important topic now. Okay. Till now, only I think 10 doubts are there in that Zoom session. Only 10 doubts, I am telling you. I don't know what is stopping them from filling the Google form and asking the doubts. Okay, so let us move to the next topic, that is rights. Please close the window, chat window. Next important topic is rights. So rights are basically our entitlements. When we feel that we have right over this, they are actually justified claim or the entitlement that we have. So rights are basically entitlement. Now there are kind of two rights. Two types of rights are there basically. One is natural rights and another is conventional rights. Natural rights are basically the rights that we have, that is independent of any law, society or custom. We have them just because we are born. We don't need any other government to recognize those rights. Understood or not? For example, that you should be treated with dignity. Yes, that is a fundamental right that we should have, that each and every individual should be treated with utmost dignity. Yes. So when each and every individual should be treated with utmost dignity, this right, is actually a natural right. It is supposed to be a natural right. It is independent of whether your government or your society recognize that or not. For example, the Talibani government cannot say that we don't recognize that women should be treated with dignity. That is wrong. So certain rights are inalienable rights. They are there. They are not, they are not required that any other institution should recognize them. That whether society should recognize them. It is just not there. Certain rights are called natural rights. They are very much natural just because, your birth is natural. Just like those rights are given to you and those rights are called natural rights. They are inalienable rights, that cannot be repealed or restrained by human laws or the societal laws. Understood or not? So basically, it does not require that, from whichever society or culture you come from, and it does not just matter in the context that certain rights are inalienable. They will be part of your entitlement because you are human and because, they are called natural rights. Understood? On the other hand, we require, in human institutions like society, culture, government, judiciary to recognize certain laws, certain rights. For example, talk about fundamental rights. Now, fundamental rights are fundamental rights because they are recognized as such by the Constitution. Understood or not? The right to property was earlier fundamental right, but it stopped being a fundamental right, after the amendment. Understood? So that is why the right to property is no longer a fundamental right. So all such rights are called conventional right, that require, for this right to be recognized by some other body. In this context, it is Constitution which recognizes a category of right as fundamental right. I think that part is already clear to you, that what we mean when we call certain rights as fundamental right and how they are important. I hope that part is very much clear to you. So that is why you require an external body, in this case Constitution and judiciary, to recognize certain rights as fundamental right, and all those rights will be called conventional rights. So overall, rights are nothing but justified claim or entitlements. Understood? Overall, rights are nothing but justified claims or your entitlement. Whenever you are behaving, that how entitled you are. So rights are those things. and they can be natural and they can be conventional. So basically, when you have right to education, as per Article 21, then you should know that every individual, who is in that certain age group, is entitled to education, is entitled. So the word entitlement is there because it is a conventional right. It is recognized by government as such. Understood? That all of us should be treated as equal before law is a fundamental right. Yes, fundamental right, and that is our entitlement. Understood or not? So in this case, right simply means entitlement. But I think 2 years back, there was one question in the UPSC that ethics is knowing the difference between right and right. Ethics is knowing the difference between right and right. So one right is basically this right, that is entitlement. In Hindi it is called adhikar, and the other right is basically righteousness. What is right thing to do. Understood or not? So basically this right is basically the entitlement, in the context of rights, adhikar, and this right is basically in the context of rightness and wrongness of human action, that is righteousness, sahi galat. So he is saying that ethics is knowing the difference between right and right, even though you are entitled to do certain things. Still, if you are enforcing that, you will be wrong only. And that is what you need to know. That is the true ethics is all about, that you are willing to forego your entitlement because you understand that it might not be appropriate to enforce those entitlement. Understood or not? Understood or not? Now, एक ऐसे हाथ खड़ा करना, मतलब बोला ना अभी बीच में इंटरप्ट नहीं करना है. No, I am not asking anything. I have not completed the concept yet. कहाँ पे थे? Yes, so you are ready to forego your entitlements because you understand that enforcing those entitlements will be the wrong thing to do. Understood? So basically, when we are talking about entitlement, I think it is very much clear that we are talking about both conventional right as well as natural rights. The entitlement that are recognized by law, society, and that comes naturally to us because we are born as human being, as well as the entitlement, as well as the righteousness that we should consider when we are actually taking a decision. Now I will talk about patriarchy. In a patriarchal society, the men are given certain entitlement. Yes, it is all right. It is absolutely all right in the context of patriarchal ethics that how a man should treat his wife. Understood or not? That is the entitlement that has been given to the man, and as per patriarchal society, that will be right thing only. So will it be the right thing to do if he treat the wife in the manner that is beyond her dignity? Will it be the right thing to do? Let us talk about marital rape. Now, marital rape is not actually illegal. You cannot go to court. Yes, it is not illegal. So, in a way, you are entitled. In a way, society recognizes your right over women. Yes, but is it the right thing to do? So, that is a difference that is there between knowing your entitlement, that yes, even though you are part of patriarchal society and by virtue of you being born, just because you have one extra chromosome, that's XY, just because you have that, you have certain right. And does not mean that you should enforce those rights. Even though your society, the patriarchal society, gives you certain entitlements. So if you are born as a man, then even though the society entitle you with respect to dowry, that you can demand a dowry, because it is your entitlement, still it will not be the right thing to do. Understood or not? Still it will not be the right thing to do. So ethics is knowing the difference between your entitlement versus the right thing to do. Now I have taken the example from the perspective of conventional right, that how society is recognizing those rights. Let us talk about the legal right as well. Let us talk about the legal right as well. Now when you go to road accident, the marital example of that only basically, let us talk about where bureaucrats are using rules as an end in themselves. That is the example of how they are enforcing their rights. In a way that is not the right thing to do. Let us talk about the misuse of money bill. Let us talk about the misuse of governor position. Let us talk about the misuse of, so many laws like UPSPA, like, internet shutdown, everything. All these things are legally right. Government is entitled to do that. Officers are entitled to do that. But is it the right thing to do? Is it the right thing to do to dislodge a democratically elected government because you are able to manipulate, anti-defection law? Is it the right thing to do? Even though speaker is entitled to define a bill as a money bill, will it be the right thing to do to use that route to bypass the legislative scrutiny? It will not be the right thing to do. Understood or not? So ethics is knowing the difference between your entitlement as something you are entitled for and how you are enforcing those entitlement. And the sense of entitlement, can be sourced to law, because law can give you that, and it can be sourced to customs and traditions. That is very important to understand. It can be sourced to customs and traditions also. When man is enforcing the patriarchal rights that he is getting from the society, then he is wrong only. If he is entitled for dowry, he should not indulge in dowry. Understood or not? If he is entitled for over certain rights, in which he can treat the wife and society will not consider that wrong, even though that person should not treat the wife, with that much contempt. Understood or not? So that is a difference that is there. Suppose you are going on roadside and you see a roadside victim that is there. So if you just, am I audible? Okay, so if you just, leave the scene of a road accident victim, you are entitled to do that. No one can actually force you that you should attend the victim. But is it the right thing to do? Is it the right thing to do? No, it is not the right thing to do. Let us talk about the fundamental rights. Let us talk about the freedom of expression. Now, even if you have right of freedom of expression, your entitlement for the freedom of expression, still you should not misuse it to inflame hatred or to actually, divide people. Understood or not? So basically, that is a difference that we need to understand, that whether whatever rights we have, we should not misuse it. And the difference between knowing our entitlements and how positively we can use that is basically ethics. Because when we are using our entitlement, we are judging whether enforcing the entitlement will be the right thing or not. Understood or not? So whenever, all the examples where power is misused, because the power is actually the authoritative power, entitlement. Yes, it's a legal entitlement. So whenever the power is misused, in the legal instrument ways, then it is the example of misusing rights only or entitlements only. Understood? So I give the example of how president rule has been misused, how money bill has been misused, how ordinance as a route has been misused, and all those examples are example of. Now the Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, she had the right to declare emergency. And she declared that. But was that the right thing to do? It was not the right thing to do. So ethics is knowing the difference between your entitlement and what is the right thing to do. Understood or not? So that is why, having just righteous approach that these are our entitlement, may not give you the right result in terms of decision making. Understood? And that is why you must consider all other aspects as well. Understood? So that is something that you must remember. This question has been asked. I think we discussed that in section A also. We'll discuss it again. So basically, when we are talking about rights, entitlement, so in ethics, when we discuss, the concept of rights, we are discussing this from the context of your entitlement, that what are your justified claim. So any action, if it is violating the right of others, then it will be unethical from the right point of view. Understood or not? Understood or not? For example, you talk about, I think one case study was there that you are managing COVID and you are the manager of the public hospital. And the case study was that even though the resources are limited, then what will be the ethical considerations, with respect to that, how you can put your doctors to the harm's way, knowing fully well that it is an infectious disease and it can harm them also. So one of the consideration is that patients have right to be treated. They have this entitlement that they are supposed to be treated by doctors, to whom otherwise they will, they will go. So their entitlement, that is what we are violating. One case study was there in the context of, I think one reputed food company, it was selling the rejected export item in the domestic market. One case study was there that was selling the rejected export item in the domestic market. Then this action is violating the right of consumers. So this is a perspective. This is a perspective of right approach, that here we are looking at how we are violating the entitlement of the people by not providing them right to safe product. Although from different perspective we can criticize that we cannot make it a universal law, it is not following its duty, and the consequences are bad only because consumer will be hit, ultimately reputation of the company will go down. That is utilitarian perspective. So from different perspective we can criticize that also, and also from right perspective, now we know that we are not treating the customers fairly because we are not respecting their rights, we are not respecting their entitlement. Now you understand the importance of entitlements? Understood? So now we have various rights, political rights. I think this you already know from the context of your prelims. Yes, similarly, there are certain human rights, the rights which are inherent to the nature, human nature. The human rights we already know, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Certain rights are constitutional rights which are recognized by Constitution. Certain rights are simply legal rights like Manrega, and then consumer rights are there, again the legal rights. I will encourage you to go through the Consumer Right Act and understand that what are your rights as consumer. Because see, whenever you are solving the case study in the context of private sector, you will be actually very short of words, if you don't know the specific consumer right. In the context of public sector, you can always quote that it is violating the liberty, it is violating Article 19, it is violating Article 21, because you have understood them in so great detail because of the preliminary preparation. But consumer rights you don't know in that great detail. So usually there will be the case study in the private sector. Almost every year one case study will be there in the context of private sector, and in that context the company will be violating the rights of the consumer. So whenever you are writing the demerit of a chosen course of action or whatever course of action, in that you will be writing that this violate right to safe products, this consumer right of safe product, or this violate the right to redressal, something like that. So there are certain rights that are there. I will encourage you that you go and remember the consumer rights so that you can quote them in those case study of private sector ethics, private sector corporate governance case study. Understood? Because in the context of public sector, we already know all such important rights, but we don't know those rights. Then animal rights are there, the rights which we believe that animals are also entitled to. For example, prevention of cruelty to animal. It bars that animals should not be treated with cruelty. So if you are treating the animals with cruelty, you are actually barring their, you are not recognizing the entitlements that they also have, that even though they cannot speak, still they cannot be treated with cruelty. That is the entitlement they have. Yes, Prevention of Cruelty Act. Then certain rights are contractual rights. Your contract actually give you certain sort of entitlement. Suppose when you join an organization, then you have entitlement that the employer cannot fire you without giving you 1 month of notice or 1 month of salary, and vice versa. So basically you have certain entitlement by the virtue of contract. Yes, understood? So basically the rights, the entitlement, you can source them to different things. You can source them to law, you can source them to contract, you can source them to, let's say, different perspective. And that is what you need to write. So whenever we are taking action, whenever we are writing merits and demerits of the chosen course of action, then that is another perspective that we can look at, that whether, are we recognizing and accepting the entitlement of the people in this particular case study, whether consumers and their rights are respected, whether citizens and their rights are respected, whether, these particular rights are respected. I think one case study was there last year, Rashika, the same case study we discussed. In the Rashika case study, she had two young children, I think under the age of 5 only, 1 year or 3 years, something like that, and she was having lot of work, and she was struggling to manage the parental duty and the the responsibility as the officer. And in that, you can always talk about that how, Maternity Benefit Act, that allows the entitlement with respect to the access to creche. Yes, there should be some crease that should be there at the organization level. That entitlement should be respected by the organization, by providing the opportunity of this. Understood? So that is what the perspective of entitlement is all about. That is the perspective of right is all about when we are analyzing our case study. So we will be analyzing our case study not just from the perspective of duty, from the perspective of consequences, from the perspective of virtue ethics, from the perspective of justice or fairness, but also from the perspective of entitlements, that whether you have certain sort of entitlement or not. And that is what you have to see. Whenever you are solving a case study, you need to see what are all the stakeholders, and what are their entitlement. The consumers may have certain entitlement, the private player, the sector company, it may have certain entitlement, and other thing can have certain entitlement. So basically that is what you need to see, that whether their entitlements are recognized or not. Understood? So that's how important the perspective of right is. And I think fundamental right, all of you know. Yes, that is what all of you can quote. And these are the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that no one has the right to hold you in slavery. So basically, if any case study, someone is treated like bonded labor, something like that, then his human right is violated. If no one has right to torture you, suppose someone is tortured, then his human right is again violated. So basically, this is what we can quote. I will encourage you that you go through that, at least twice or thrice, so that you have basic understanding that what all human right comprises of. Understood? And when we are solving the question that how it is violating their entitlement. Yes? So please go to just do the Google search and you will, encounter this, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Understood? Understood? So now let us talk about the natural rights. We discussed the entitlement from the perspective of that there are certain entitlement which comes very naturally to you. You don't recognize any government, any society, and these rights are called natural rights. And then there are certain rights which are conventional rights. You need someone to recognize. Fundamental rights are conventional rights, because unless the constitution recognizes them, there is no meaning of them. Understood? So basically, different philosophers have given different perspective for natural rights. And as per John Locke, you have three fundamental natural rights. And these are life, liberty, and property. That you have right to life, you have right to property, and you have right to liberty. In this context, in present day age, it may seem to us that how come right to property be a fundamental right? But in those times, property was the only thing that you can have, in terms of your economic activity. We did not have service sector and all those things, so evolved. So property was very, very important for your survival. So from that perspective, right to life, liberty, and property was regarded as funda of the natural right by the John Locke. Okay, so basically different people have recognized different aspect of natural rights. Understood or not? So now he gives a particular perspective that since all of us, we are born with certain fundamental rights, certain natural rights. Yes, that all of us have certain rights, and one of the right is liberty. That all of us have liberty. And when all of us have liberty, will we maximize liberty if we allow everyone just to have maximum liberty without any restraint? Or we will maximize the liberty when we have certain restraint on individual liberty? Certain restraint should be there. Yes. If suppose this is a society that is there and it consists of all the individuals that are sitting in this classroom, then we cannot maximize liberty if any individual, do whatever he or she wishes. For that matter, the individual, may turn out to be a murderer and he wished to murder anyone. Then he cannot justify his act that I have liberty to do so, because when he is doing so, he is threatening the liberty of others, and that is why that person should be restricted. There should be sanctions on the liberty of that person. Understood or not? Understood or not? So that is why to maximize overall liberty in the society, what is important is that you should have certain sanctions on the liberty. So when we are talking about that an individual's liberty should be limited by some sanctions, so that automatically means there has to be some institution to enforce those sanctions. Otherwise, who will enforce those sanctions against himself or herself? Can we think the individual will enforce the sanctions on himself? Will the murderer automatically put himself in jail? That, I committed some crime and that's why I should be in jail? No, of course, we would want him that he should be put in jail. And when we are putting that person in jail, we are taking some liberty from him. We are snatching his liberty. We may actually sentence that person to death also. In that case, we are taking his right to life also. Understood or not? So when we are doing that, there has to be some external agency which should do it, because we cannot trust individuals that they will themselves put restraint. Because if that is the case, then what is the need of government? What is the society will be happy only. Understood or not? So basically, in that context, you need to understand that if you have to maximize overall rights of the people, then you need authority, you need some central authority that will enforce some sort of sanctions on the individual liberty, because then only you can maximize the overall liberty of the society. Understood? This part understood or not? We cannot have absolute liberty to anyone and then claim that we will have maximum liberty of society. That is not possible. Absolute liberty will create chaos. Absolute liberty will lead to might is right approach. Absolute liberty will lead to that, that there will be Matsya law. The big fish will always eat the smaller fish, because that is what absolute liberty will lead to. So that is why you need some authority that will put some restrictions or some restraint on the individual liberty. Understood or not? So that is the context of the social contract theory that was given by John Locke. And he says that, originally all the individuals, since we have to maximize that each of us can enjoy our, different natural rights and everything. And that is why, all the people, they enter into an agreement. Let us read this together. It is an agreement between a legitimate authority. It is very important. It is a legitimate authority, that is state, and citizens, in which citizens willfully surrender. They willfully surrender some of their freedom and liberties for establishing a society with peace and which protects their natural rights of the member. So one thing is important, that this central authority, it should be the legitimate authority. Understood? It should be legitimate authority, and we are willfully surrendering some of our rights to this authority. We are agreeing, okay, you can take away some of our liberty, provided you establish a society with peace and which protect our other natural rights. That yes, you can impose certain restriction on us at times, but with a condition that it should be for establishing society with peace. Understood or not? Understood or not? And that is why, when we surrender when we willfully agree to surrender some of our right to the society, that yes, you can put some restriction on our liberty. You can put some reasonable restrictions on our liberty in the name of public order, in the name of law and order, in the name of sovereignty and security of the state. That is the reasonable restrictions that are there in the fundamental rights. Yes, so we agree that you can put some restrictions, but those restrictions that you are putting on us should be for the greater cause. Should be for the greater cause. Since we are giving you this liberty, since we are giving you this entitlement that you can take some of our natural rights, even right to life, because you are enforced. If you are giving death penalty to anyone, if you are, firing on terrorists, if you are firing on Naxals, you are taking away some of their rights. Now, we cannot say that terrorists and Naxals, they cannot say that, no, how dare you take our natural right. They cannot say that, because they only willfully agreed that yes, we are surrendering our right to life to this state in case it leads to overall benefit, in case it creates a society with peace and ensure all other rights. Understood or not? And that is why when government decided to put us in lockdown, it was taking some of our rights, that is liberty. It was restricting us in terms of our movement, but for a greater cause, to ensure all other rights, that is right to life, to ensure that we survive, to ensure that we live. And that is how it is justified. And that is why when police, military, army, when they open fire on anyone, when they kill anyone, when they enforce violence on the protester or on terrorist or on insurgent or on Naxals, they are taking some of their rights, because those people only willfully agreed that yes, you can put us some restriction, but to ensure overall peaceful society. Of course, when they agreed, they were not Naxals, of course. When they agreed, they were not terrorists. That is the condition. That is the condition, when they agreed that yes, you can put us in certain restrictions, they were like, yes, that, it will not be us, that, that will come in conflict with the law or with the society. Understood or not? So that is fundamental aspect, and that is why, my dear students, state is the only legitimate authority to use violence. And that is why, if suppose there is a disagreement between you and me, you and me cannot settle that through the use of violence. Because if that happens, then, I will be violating a law. Only state can use violence or its authority, which it sanctions through law. And that is why police can use violence, that is why army can use violence. They can open fire and even kill people, because we only have given that entitlement that yes, you can kill us if it serves public purpose. And that is why when they kill terrorists, when they kill Naxals, when they kill insurgents, or when they open fire protester, to ensure law and order, or when they put us under internet shutdown, or when they impose curfew, they do it for the greater cause. They do it because they are entrusted with the responsibility to ensure entire society and not just few individuals. They are looking at the larger picture. It is their duty to ensure that your all other rights are protected, even though some of your rights momentarily, state is taking them away, like liberty. It took liberty from you when during COVID lockdown, but it was to ensure that you get to live. Your right to life is exercised. Understood? Understood or not? So that is the basis of social contract. And when you look at social contract from this perspective, all of us must know that social contract, the basis of social contract is consent. We have willfully agreed that yes, you can put us in lockdown. Yes, you can do the lathi charge. Yes, you can put us, in under curfew. Yes, you can impose AFSPA. We have willfully agreed. Understood or not? So consent is important. Consent is important. And this is very, very important, that we are going to discuss. That we have entitled the central authority, that is state, that yes, you can put us a restriction, that yes, you can take some of our natural rights, yes, that you can, put some restriction on us. So of course, now you have a lot of power, and we will willfully agree to that. We have agreed to that. But that power is not absolute. If you are putting us in under restriction, that if you are exercising that power, then that power is not absolute, my dear friend. That power should be used to ensure, to protect all other rights of us, or basically to ensure overall societal interest. And that is why when state is using lockdown, when state is, doing anything which is snatching some of your rights, it should do it for the greater cause. It should justify it for the greater cause. And that is why Section 66A of IIT Act, because it was not justified, it was not serving the larger object, it was made unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, because overall it was more misused than used. So the power and authority that government is having over its citizen, it comes with restrictions. It comes with responsibility. Government does not have unbridled or unrestricted authority. And my dear student, this particular concept is known as constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is not just implementation of constitution. It is not that. You need to understand that. Constitutionalism, this is the term. This term is not just implementation of constitution. Because the emergency was constitutional. You understand that? Emergency was not unconstitutional. It was done through constitutional means only. But was it constitutionalism? No. Constitutionalism means limiting the authority of government. That the government or the state, it does not have unlimited authority. That is what is the essence of constitutionalism means. And the fundamental basis is because the authority that we have given to government is because that they should protect all other rights. That responsibility is there. That responsibility is actually putting all those checks and balances on the government in the context of limitation in the exercise of authority. Government is open firing. When the police is open firing on the protester, it cannot open fire on all the people that are there in the city. It has to act very, precisely, that yes, only on this group of people I will be open firing, not on this group of people. Because the power has to be exercised with utmost caution. It is not the unbridled power. It is not unrestrained power. Understood or not? And that is the basis of constitutionalism. Let us discuss this concept, in a bit more detail. So constitutionalism is not just, about implementation of constitution, because in constitution there may not be checks and balances. The constitution may have loopholes, just like emergency, the provision of emergency, just like Nazi Germany, it also had constitution. Nazi Germany, it also had constitution, and there was no such mechanism that could restrain Hitler from exercising what he was doing. So constitutionalism is not just implementation of constitution, it is essentially about limiting the authority of government. It is essentially about limiting the authority of government, and constitutionalism should be there even though there is no written constitution. Even though there is no written constitution. So even though you have written constitution, even though you does not have written constitution, still you must have constitutionalism. That is what you need to understand. Pakistan had written constitution, Germany had written constitution, India also had written constitution. In all three circumstances, we saw how constitutionalism was violated, how the Nazi Germany violated constitutionalism, how Pakistan, military takeover, often violates the constitutionalism, and how in emergency era, how constitutionalism was violated. So even though in all three cases we had written constitution, so having a written constitution is not a guarantee for constitutionalism, because constitutionalism is a much wider concept. It is a much wider concept that talks about limiting the authority of government, that government must exercise its authority with caution. As per social contract, that caution is that you have to exercise authority to ensure that all other rights of the people are protected. That is what you need to understand. So if government has this perspective, then no government will become autocratic. Even though you have constitution or not, does not matter. Because you have this perspective that whatever authority you are having over the people, you have to exercise for their benefit only. You have to exercise to ensure all other rights are usually protected. The exceptional power that you have is just for exceptional circumstances only, and that too you must exercise in the context of public interest only. So that is why you do not have unbridled power or unrestrained power. So even though you have constitution, do not have constitution, does not matter, because the authority you have is you derive it from the people only. People willfully have agreed that yes, you can put us in restraint. And that is the basis of constitutionalism. Understood? So question comes, having a written constitution is not a guarantee of constitutionalism. This is what it means. And that is why in constitution usually there are checks and balances, that we put to ensure that government authority is limited. So when we say we have separation of power, like legislature, executive, judiciary, legislature exercising control over executive, and judiciary seeing that all the things are implemented, then it is a mechanism to ensure constitutionalism. When we have every 5-year election, that is a mechanism to ensure constitutionalism, because voters can replace government. Media is a way to ensure constitutionalism. Civil society, NGOs, protest group, all these things are a way to ensure constitutionalism. Fundamental rights are a way to ensure constitutionalism. Understood or not? Judiciary, of course, is a way to ensure constitutionalism. To ensure that you do not have unbridled power. And that is why Keshananda Bharti case is basically an example of that only, that yes, the authority of the legislature to amend the constitution is not unlimited. You are governed by the basic structure doctrine. That is an example of constitutionalism, and also an example of constitutional morality, the spirit of the constitution. Understood or not? So that is what, in social contract, now we understand the importance of constitutionalism, that it is because we have agreed that yes, you can take away some of our power in case you agree that you will be protecting us generally. So usually we have all those fundamental rights, unless in exceptional circumstances, in those reasonable restrictions, state can enforce some of the things. So power comes with responsibility, and this contract is based on rights, citizens are surrendering some of their entitlement to the state. That yes, we are surrendering that we have right to live. Imagine surrendering that. That yes, we are surrendering that we have right to live in certain circumstances. So if we turn out to be murderer, yes, you can kill us. If we turn out to be terrorist, yes, you can kill us. If we turn out to be insurgent, yes, you can kill us. So right is the basis. Right is the currency of this social contract, that we are surrendering the right in order to protect all other rights, that usually our all other rights should be protected. At societal level, we should be maximizing the entitlement of these rights. Understood or not? So, right is the basis. And what is the manifestation? How it is actually seen? You see, the use of violence, it is the monopoly of the state. Only state can use violence. Only state can kill people. I cannot kill people. If I don't like you, I cannot kill you. I do not have that power. If there is dispute between you and me, I cannot kill you. But state has the authority to take away your life. Of course, with responsibility. Then restrictions on rights and the imposition of legal obligation. And ultimately, fundamental objective is that you have to ensure a just society in which your rights are respected. Understood or not? Understood or not? The social contract is basically a philosophy that why exactly we are obeying the government. We are obeying the government because we only have willfully, with our consent, have surrendered some of their rights to the government, that yes, you can enforce some of the things and you will follow it. Understood? And constitutionalism and this power is a byproduct of that. This power always comes with the responsibility. State do not have unbridled power. Understood? And all of you now understand this right perspective, that right philosophy, we actually criticize any action from the perspective that whether it is, violating some people's right or not, whether it is violating their entitlement or not. Understood? In the context of corporate ethics, we will see whether consumer rights are violated or not. In the context of tribal, we will see whether their rights, are violated or not. In the context of minority, we will see whether their rights are violated or not. Understood or not? So we will see from the perspective of rights here, that what are their entitlement. And when we are seeing their rights, we will see what are the entitlement from the perspective of law, from the perspective of constitution. Understood? So now you may ask your doubt in the chat box, and if any of you have doubt, then we can discuss. Yes, please ask your doubt. Social contract, yes, in a way it is rule utilitarianism only, but is not exactly social. The term was not used by them. Yes, UK has no written constitution, but still have basic fundamental right. You may or may not have written constitution. The fundamental principle is the authority should be exercised with caution. Can you scroll above? I think there were some doubts earlier. Gokul, am I not audible? Was I not audible properly? Gokul Nath. Yes, the moral values, Ria, can we say the moral values will guide us to decide if rights have to be enforced or not? Yes, because rights are only one way to look at things. Ultimately, we have to look at other things as well. So, if because of patriarchy you have right over the wife, of course it is wrong. It is a wrong entitlement that one is having. Then still you have to see the other aspect as well. In the context of marital rape, although it is not illegal, but you have to see other things also. So yes, your moral values will guide ultimately whether you have to enforce your right, and those moral values will actually lead to ethics. Yes, Ri. Sir, can there be a case where state follows constitutional morality but ignore constitutionalism? The case will be that the constitution itself is wrong. Constitutional morality is nothing but following the constitution in its spirit. But if the basic of constitution is itself wrong, for example, that your constitution is not secular, it is communal by design, then it may be constitutional morality and it may be against constitutionalism. Yes, someone was asking doubt from here. Yes. Life, liberty and property, someone recognized that as a natural right. So natural right that you should be treated with dignity, that is a natural right.
Sir, but it is given by constitution only, right?
So I mean, there can be overlap also, na? I mean, when did I say that they cannot be recognized by the constitution? There can be overlap of that. If something is natural right to you, and you believe that it comes to you very naturally just because you are born, of course you would like it to be recognized by the constitution also. Otherwise, to whom you will go if that is violated? On its own, if there is natural right, then of course, I mean, we as citizens would like that should be recognized by constitution. Then only it will be enforced. I mean, you cannot say that I have right to do whatever I want. It had to be recognized by some external authority also. I mean, that is a protection. The natural right is a protection against the regime that is not recognizing the rights. For example, Taliban. Now, Taliban cannot say that since we are not recognizing the basic right of women, there is no right at all. The women will say, no, just because we are born, we deserve certain rights. So it does not matter whether you are recognizing or not. But ideally, you would want that the government recognize your right, because then only it will be enforced. And that is why in Taliban, the rights are not getting enforced, even though theoretically we are arguing that yes, they have right. Any other doubt?
In selling of rejected food items, what is the source of entitlement for the company? On what basis they are selling?
They are wrong. Whatever they are doing is wrong. They know no entitlement. Then they know they are violating the law.
Like if you get overstayed.
Yes, they are violating the law. But they are also violating the rights of the consumer, right to safe product. Yes. Any other doubt? Online walo? Yes, Arshad, that can be the perspective, right versus less right action, and less right action, it itself means that there is some gap, and that is ethics. Any other doubt? All of you understood? Yes, Somaya, yes. We have only typed sir, there is no doubt. Previous slide. Somaya, when did you join the course? Would you listen to the doubt? In a law, a man is guilty if he violates the right of others. In ethics, he is guilty only if he thinks of so. Kant, please explain this quote, sir. When did you join the course? Recently, you need to tell me. I mean, is this a first lecture or second lecture? Please watch the previous lectures. I have discussed this quote umpteen number of times. Many times I have discussed this quote, and you will need the theoretical background also to understand that. Please watch the previous lectures. I have discussed that. Those who have joined recently, please don't start midway. You have to start from the first lecture only. I don't know why you are starting midway. How will you try to connect the things? No, you cannot join in between. You will only say that I am not able to understand because of that only. Sir, can you please elaborate on what gives legitimacy to authority in the context of social contract? The legitimacy is given by the people only. I mean, the people have surrendered their right to the state. They have not surrendered their right to, let us say, RSS, or let us say Congress, or let us say BJP. They have surrendered their right to the state, and that is a legitimacy because it has responsibility to protect all other rights. The Congress or the BJP or the whatever you are saying, they do not have the legitimacy to do so. They do not have such responsibility. That is what legitimacy means. In this case, it is state. The previous slide is fundamental right only. Which slide? This slide do you want? Just go through the consumer rights. Understood, Manish? We will have more perspective of social contract and philosophical basis of governance. Human right, I mean, you can simply Google it also. Simply Google it and just go through it once or twice, so that you understand what is meant by human right. Only from that perspective. It is not feasible nor advisable that you remember all the human right. Just go through them so that you understand what is human right, so that you can write in the case study that their human right is violated. Done? Sir, legal and constitutional rights are same. Udit, have you given any prelims yet? Yes. Oh my God. Did you qualify? I think no. Okay. See, I think you lack some basic clarity. You need to work on your polity as well. That was the exact question in 2017, that right to vote is a legal right or a constitutional right. In 2017, the exact same question was asked. So legal right is basically the right, entitlement that is given by law, ordinary law, not constitution, not recognized by constitution. So Manrega is a legal right. Right to education is a legal right. You won't find Manrega and right to information in constitution. So it is a legal right, not constitutional right. Rights which are recognized by constitution are constitutional rights. Which find mention in constitution, they are constitutional rights. Fundamental rights are example of constitutional rights. Legal rights are example of, legal rights are example of the rights that are recognized by law only, statute only. Okay. Sir, is constitutionalism a tool for social contract? Tool, I don't understand tool, but it is the inference from social contract, that authority that we are giving to the state, it is not unbridled, it is not unrestricted, it is restrained. State is also restrained. Understood? All of you? I will again request those who have joined recently, please watch the previous lectures, don't join in between. There is no hurry, Friday, Sunday, anyway you don't have class, so you finish that. फराज आप खुश लग रहे हो, बहुत बढ़िया. Last 1.5 months has been really bad for us in terms of health issues. Entire family is visiting hospital. So in Diwali break, I just put my mobile phone away in these 5 days. That's why I was not able to reply to many of your messages, because so much of mental health toll was there, So the family health issue is there, including mine, So that is there. So next topic is Bhagavad Gita. What we can learn Bhagavad Gita, I think. Okay, now only we will do it. Any doubt? Bhagavad Gita. So what we can learn from Bhagavad Gita? What are the lessons that we can learn from Bhagavad Gita? Okay. So one thing that we can learn is Nishkam Karma. All of you know this for a fact that Nishkam Karma is basically when we are performing an action without attachment to the result, without expectation of result. That is what Nishkam Karma is all about. Yes. So important, just like Kant, that you have to do the thing for the respect of the moral law, for the respect of what you are doing, not because of the consequence of what you are doing. Very similar concept is there. So Nishkam Karma is something that we can learn from Bhagavad Gita. But how? The question will not be like learning from Bhagavad Gita. The question will be that how it is relevant to administration. So Nishkam Karma is very much, Sir, please make a comment on US election. ना भाई, क्या चल रहा है? Tomorrow you will say, sir, थोड़ा नाच के भी दिखा दो, आ ही गए हो तो यहाँ पे. Ethics is knowing the difference between right and right, even though you are entitled to put something in the chat box, you should know what you are writing. Yes. So Nishkam Karma is very much relevant from the perspective of bureaucracy, because when you are doing something as part of bureaucracy, as part of public service, you should do it for doing your duty. You should not do it because you will get promotions or you will get accolades for doing that. And that is why, when certain babus, they take YouTube team with them, they have made a YouTube channel when they are going for field inspection, when they are doing that, then they are doing this wrong. Because when they are doing it, they are doing it for the personal fame rather than actually doing the work. And that is why it is wrong. And doing so, they often treat the erring person, very inhumanly, as if he is not a human being. He does not have dignity. Even though you have to scold him, you can always scold him in private, in private meeting. You can always enforce all those rules and regulations in private meeting. You need not make a tamasha over there because it hurts them. You see, when you become DMs, I will request you that if you go on a school visit, and I'm sure you will do that. And then when you go there, then don't humiliate teachers in front of their students. Because ultimately, you will not be teaching them after your, this publicity visit will be over. Only teachers will be teaching them. And if teachers lose respect in front of students, it will be very, very difficult for them to teach also. If you have to say something, you can always tell them privately or amongst the teacher. So basically, when you are doing something, you should do it for the sake of doing your duty, as if there is no attachment to it. Understood? So the bureaucrats, the example of the actor come IAS officer, when he was appointed as election observer by the election commission. So he posted a picture on Instagram, and the election commission reprimanded him and removed from his duty. So that example is an example of not doing your karma with Nishkam approach. Basically, he was doing his duty to gain publicity, and that is the wrong thing to do. And that's how relevant it is in the age of social media. What you are doing, you should do it for the perspective of the right thing, for the respect of the moral law, for the right thing, not for promotion or not for publicity. And the same thing, same argument you can use. Usually the question can be that, usually, can I discuss? One theme I'm discussing, it is just aloof from this, but it has just come to my mind that anonymity, and listen to me very carefully, anonymity is central part of bureaucracy, central theme of bureaucracy, that when bureaucrats, when Weber imagined bureaucracy, then he imagined that bureaucrats will work anonymously only. Whatever credit for the work, if it has to be taken, it will be taken by politicians, political executive, rightly so, because they have come to the mandate by, promising something to the voters. They will take the blame and they will take the credit, both the thing. Bureaucrat will work anonymously only. So anonymity has been the hallmark of bureaucracy for so long. So that is the notion that is there. And anonymity has some benefit also, Anonymity has some benefit also. The benefit is that it allows you to work without fear or favor. Since you are anonymous, no one knows you. So you can work freely. You can work without fear or favor. Anonymity, will not invite, unnecessary media attention, that whatever you are doing, media is following you, so that you can focus on your work. So anonymity has a lot of positivity in terms of what you are doing, so that you can ruthlessly, efficiently implement them, and the blame or credit should be shared to the political executive, because they are the real decision maker in this context. You are simply implementing them. Understood or not? So anonymity has been traditionally the hallmark of bureaucracy. So the theme of the question is, the theme that has been often asked is that in this age of social media, how relevant anonymity is. That is the question that is asked. In this age of social media, when everything that you are doing, even government is promoting so many things on social media, then how relevant social media is, how relevant anonymity is in the context of bureaucracy. That is the question that is there. Just to remind you, I am discussing a separate thing apart from this, And that is a question that often comes, that how relevant anonymity is in the age of social media, when everything we are doing so transparently, and when citizens demand transparency. So when they are demanding transparency, the transparency goes against anonymity at times. So the answer, your answer, of course, will talk about the merit of anonymity, and your answer will, of course, go to the extent that if you are living everything on social media, if you are going, there is, everything you are living publicly only, then it will harm your efficiency only, because you will invite, unnecessary media attention or glare, and that will harm your efficiency only. So when you are using social media, the intention is paramount. That to what purpose you are using a social media. A, you are using it because you want to change the attitude of people. For example, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, then it is a good thing to do. Yes, you should do it. You should be on social media. Because the intention is good. The intention of social media is to change attitude of the people for the good thing. And that is often needed. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, all those examples are that only. So yes, when you are on social media doing that, it is good thing only. But when you are on social media, doing this, then it is a bad thing. So intention matter a lot when you are using a social media. And when you're talking about anonymity, when you're talking about using social media, the social media should be used from the official handles, not from the personal handles. Because that is where anonymity has to be observed. It should be district collector of Bharatpur who is doing something rather than, XYZ doing something. It should be the official social media, that you should use for the official work, not your personal social media. So if at all you need to breach the traditional walls of anonymity in this age of social media, A, your intention has to be pure. B, it should be for the official purpose. And C, it should not come in a way of your discharge of official duty. Then only you can breach that traditional aspect. That should be your conclusion when you are done, arguing for merits and demerits of this anonymity. Understood? And in this case, you can always quote Nishkam Karma, that when you are doing something, you should do it for the sake of doing it rather than seeking publicity out of it. Because when you are in bureaucracy, you see lot many bureaucrats, they are very, very active on social media. And in a way, they are posting everything. And that is why the circular was there on the Lavasana, that, you cannot post everything. The use of those photos from the premise was banned. Because the grand entry videos and everything, it was not something that is expected of you. So, you should not do it. Nishkam Karma is something. Another relevance that is there in the context of social media is that when you are doing some work, whatever work you are doing, because usually, there's a concept that is called punishment posting. That you are having punishment posting. That you will be made a jailer. So if you are an SP, you will be transferred to jail if you are not in the good books of the government. So when you are transferred from being an SP to the jail, often many of the IPS officers consider that as a punishment posting. So Nishkam Karma will ask you that you should not view it, because every job is a duty and you have to do your duty irrespective of the potential outcome. And you have to do that duty very sincerely. So there is nothing called punishment posting in the context of Nishkam Karma, because every karma has to be done from the perspective of doing your duty. Do we not need jailers? Do we not need jailers? Can we do without jailers? Can we do without, let's say, trainers in the police academy? Can we do without them? No, we cannot. We cannot do without them. We need them. Or when we need them, that is why it is a duty. Someone has to do it. So be it that you are doing that duty. So you have to do that in a Nishkam Karma perspective. There's no punishment. And you can give the example of Kiran Bedi here when she was posted to Tihar jail. She undertook so many important reforms. So many reforms. Meditation and everything, skill building, vocational training, and she got Magsaysay award for that. Of course, when she worked for it, she did not work for the Magsaysay award. She worked for that because under that time, being a jailer was considered, that is a non-glamorous post. So that is the perspective of Nishkam Karma. When you are doing something, okay, Manish, take care. So when you are doing something, you have to do that selflessly. Understood? So that is the perspective of Nishkam Karma. That's how relevant it is in today's time. Understood? Understood? Now, Sthit Prajna. Sthit Prajna is basically equanimity. Sthit Prajna is basically equanimity. Equanimity basically means that you are emotionally stable. You are not too happy or too sad in such emotions. that you are not carried away by the emotions. If you are happy, you are too happy. If you are sad, you are too sad. That should not be the case. You should remain stable. You should maintain your composure. That is what Sthit Prajna is all about, because that only will allow you to be firm in the judgment. Something similar that you discuss in the context of virtue ethics also, emotional intelligence also, that you should govern your emotion. You should not, reason should be able to govern the emotion, the Plato type soul. Understood? So, Sthit Prajna, equanimity, because how that is relevant in the context of civil services, because at times you face so many challenging positions. This example, Karnala's DM court issuing correct their heads order. Because he was, so driven by the emotions, the circumstances were really challenging, and he was so driven by the emotions of anger that he said that sir phod do inka, correct their heads. So you have to be, Sthit Prajna, you have to maintain emotional balance to actually implement anything. You talk about fake encounters. When police officers, everything, when they are doing such action under the impact of emotions, they are not maintaining equanimity. Understood? So, Sthit Prajna is something that we can learn from Gita, and that is very, very much relevant from the perspective of administration. Then, Yog Kshemam Vahamyam. Yog Kshemam Vahamyam. Basically, your welfare is our responsibility. This is the, I think, tagline of LIC. Yog Kshemam Vahamyam. Yes, in English it translates, your welfare is our responsibility. And we are a welfare state as per article. आर्टिकल याद नहीं करते क्या? डीपीएसपी में नहीं पढ़ा है तो पढ़ो उसको, ठीक है. So we are a welfare state, and that is why the bureaucrat should have this sense of responsibility, that they have a sense of responsibility towards the citizens, that their welfare is our responsibility. Their welfare is our responsibility. Yog Kshemam Vahamyam. And that is why when you see that there is so much of uncleanliness, then bureaucrat cannot shun away saying that it is not your responsibility. It is your responsibility. If air is not getting clean, if Yamuna is not getting clean, if you are inhaling toxic fumes, then it is your responsibility. You cannot mend your wage and say that no, it does not come under our jurisdiction, something like that. Your welfare is our responsibility. Basically, we are responsible for you. So that is how relevant it is when you're talking about cleanliness, when you're talking about sustainability, when you're talking about law and order, when you're talking about crimes, everything, your welfare is our responsibility. We are supposed to be welfare state. You're talking about weaker section of society, destitutes, person with disability, Dalits, tribals, everyone, their welfare is the responsibility of bureaucrats and state. That's how relevant Yog Kshemam Vahamyam is from the perspective of Gita. Administration, when they are doing their work, they should be very much cautious towards the needs and concerns of the weaker section of the society, because their welfare is their responsibility. Understood or not? Understood? Another important learning from Bhagavad Gita is Swadharma, that you are following your duty. Whatever your designated role in the society, you are doing it. Swadharma. Then another important perspective is, this is very, very important, Yogaha Karmashu Kaushlam. It is there on the Lavasna also. It is written over there. Yogaha Karmashu Kaushlam, the tagline of our college, KGP also, IIT KGP also. Yogaha Karmashu Kaushlam. What does it mean? It means that yoga is excellent at work. What is yoga? What is yoga? Yoga is basically unification. Yoga in Hindi, it simply means unification. Is basically, सुन लो भाई ध्यान से, इसके manifestation बहुत हैं, ये बहुत important concept है. So yoga is basically unification, that everything is unified. Your body, mind, soul, everything is unified. So it should not be the case that your body is here, but your mind is at somewhere else. Your mind is, so you are not in a yogic state. So for you to be in a yogic state, it should be unified. Your body and state, it should be unified. It should be focused. That is what yoga is all about. So this perspective is saying, listen to me very, very carefully, that yogaha karmashu kaushlam, that Various people say that no, to be a true yogi, you need to do so many things. Yes, prana, pranayam, asana, and so many things. And this perspective is that you can attain a state of true yogi by being excellent at what you are doing. Because to be excellent at what you are doing, you have to be totally focused. When you are totally focused at what you are doing, you will automatically achieve the state of yogi. Because, when you are studying, I'm sure you will understand that when you are in your zone means you are very much focused and you are studying, and someone comes, and asks you something, someone interrupts you, you feel like yelling at them because you are in that zone. Just like I yell at you when I'm teaching you something and you ask me some doubt. Yes, in between. So basically, when you are into that zone, you want to be, concentrated on your thoughts only when you are teaching someone some important concept. So basically, to be a true yogi, you need not do so many pranayam and asana. That is what it is saying. So basically, yogic state or that state of unification can be achieved by pursuing excellence at work. If you are just pursuing excellence at what you are doing, it will require you to become a true yogi. And you imagine that if you truly want to excel, let's say you truly want to excel in your ethics, then when you are studying from me, you have to be present here, mentally, physically, everything. When you are going home and you are revising, then also you need to be fully concentrated. So only when you are pursuing excellence, then you will attain the true yogic state. So that is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita, that it translates, such a spiritual concept in a such real materialistic sense that you just pursue excellence in what you are doing and you will be a true yogi. Understood? So that is what Yoga Karma Shulu Kausalam means, that through pursuing excellence at work, you are actually pursuing, to be a true yogi, who is actually focused, sincere, whose body, mind, soul, everything is concentrated. And that is what you should be when you are aspirant, civil service aspirant. Every ounce of your blood, every ounce of your energy should be geared towards your goal only. And that is the state, I'm sure, till this point of time, at least for some days, some weeks, some month, you will feel that stage in your life. That when you are totally focused, that is the status of a true yogi, that he lives in the present. He's not worried by the future and the past because he truly immersed in the present only. Yoga Karma Shulu Kausalam. And that is very, very relevant from the perspective of civil services, because it asks civil servant to pursue excellence. That civil servant should pursue excellence, meaning they should not just remain a generalist civil servant. They should, work harder and attain domain expertise. They cannot remain non-competent or incompetent. They must work at their competency. They must continuously learn. They must innovate. They must solve the problem for the public, because that is what being excellent at work will demand, that they are excellent at what they are doing. The theme of integrity without knowledge is a reflection of that only. If you are having integrity in the context of morality, but you are not having knowledge, you are not having competency, you are useless. So you are not pursuing excellence in that case. So if you are a doctor, imagine you are a doctor and you don't know, you are not very efficient at what you are doing, basically surgery for example, who will come to you? Who will trust their life with you? No one will trust their life with you. So just like you are an SP, you are a district magistrate, so cost of your inefficiency is very, very high. Right now, if suppose, aap nahi padhte, if you are lazy, then cost at most will be beared by you only, that you will not become a civil servant. But if you become a civil servant and then if you are lazy, the cost will be beared by so many people. So that the perspective of this, that you must chase excellence, because when you chase excellence, when you pursue excellence, when you pursue learning, when you continuously, work on upskilling yourself, the context of Mission Karma Yogi that is also there, that's how relevant Yoga Karma Shulu Kausalam is. And it means that you have to, do your duty with detachment from the personal gains, because a true yogi is totally immersed in present. He is not worried about the future, that he will get presidential medal for that. That is what a true yogi is. He works without fear or favor. He is totally immersed in what he is doing. So that is a perspective, duties with detachment from personal gains or losses, because he is truly immersed in what he is doing. Yoga karma shulukoslam. And a true yogi, he's also not worried by that thing, that what will be the future or something like that. He's truly immersed in present. And that's what you should also do. As a civil servant, you should be pursuing excellence in your work, and that should detach you from anything. And it also means that public service, is not just a profession for you. It is a means to achieve spiritualism also, because when you are doing your duty, the concept of service is here. You are actually serving people, It is not just a mere profession. You are attaining the yogic state through work only. So your work becomes part of your worship. Worship is that only. It has a spiritual dimension and not just materialistic dimension, that you are doing your duty. Through doing your duty only, you are attaining spiritual enlightenment, because you are pursuing excellence. This yogic concept is not just from the perspective of individual, that I should be focused, my body, mind, soul, everything should be in yogic state, basically yoga, unified. It is also from the perspective of development. The development should also be whole. It should also be yogic. It should be unified, and it means that it should not be exclusive. It should be inclusive. It should include anyone. And if it includes everyone, it basically means it is sustainable. It is inclusive. So from the content of development also, you see, when bureaucrats are working, they should work for everyone. That is what excellence, yogic state truly means. So now if the question comes, how yoga karma shulukoslam is relevant from the perspective of bureaucracy, then now you know from which angle you have to discuss. From the perspective of pursuing excellence, domain expertise and competency, from the perspective of being in present and basically not driven by, fear or favor, something like that. And another important perspective is doing public service as a spiritual service and not a mere profession, that you are doing it because you are getting a salary. No, not because of that. Although Weber talked about that, he had very materialistic perspective, but he's saying that you need not go to temple, you need not go to all those things to become a true spiritual person. You simply do your job very honestly, and it will be the spiritual service to whatever you are doing. That is what it is saying. Yoga karma shulukoslam. Understood? So this is very, very important concept that you can quote when you are writing your answer, that how this is relevant. Understood? Another learning is that Lok Samagra, welfare of the world, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and everything, that's how relevant it is. In the context of bureaucracy, the IFS are also there, in foreign services officers, so they should strive for welfare of all, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, peace in the world and something. So now we know that what are the learnings from Bhagavad Gita and how we can, apply them in real life. Now we know. Yes, all of us know that. In the specific examples we know how we can quote them. Yes. So now you please note. If there are any doubt, you please ask. If there is any doubt, please ask. Doubt? Please note this. This is a very, very important concept, and you can quote these concepts, in various contexts, in case study, in emotional intelligence, Greek thinkers. Yes, you can use that example of Armstrong Payne, crowdfunding. Yes, you can use that. But the primary intention was to serve people, not to gain publicity. Okay, so Weber concept was that bureaucrats have to remain anonymous. They are value neutral. They are like an apparatus that is implementing something. That is what is the application of Weber rationality is. That the politicians are deciding things and they are simply implementing them. So bureaucrats, they have to remain anonymous. So anonymity is there, and that is why when you are doing your work so much, publicizing what you are doing, it is going against anonymity. Which quotation you are talking about, Sohani? How we can develop understanding of quotes like that, very deep. Which quotation? Yes, you can mix them. Yes. Yoga karam shulukoslam. I mean, that will come with whatever we have discussed. You use that. You need not, just go and collect so many things. You just focus on learning. Done? इससे पहले वाला हो गया था? Okay, nice. Okay, so now let us move to other important theory. Moral intuitionalism. Moral intuitionism. So, this group of thinker, they believe. Shall I start discussing? So basically, they believe that, that whether something is good or bad, whether something is moral or immoral, you know it by your intuition. You don't need any external inference for that. That is what they believed. For example, they are just self-evident to you. For example, let us say, this the shirt that I am wearing, this color is purple. Yes, so this color is purple. This color is purple just because it is purple. It is self-evident. You don't need any external logical thing to say that how this color is purple. It is very much self-evident. So just like that, moral truth are self-evident. Through intuition only you know. For example, when we see that there is river pollution that is there, so you need not know the scientific facts that how it is reducing the biological oxygen demand, how it is reducing the dissolved oxygen, how it is how it is not good for river ecosystem and so on and so forth. Just by look at it, you can feel that it is wrong, it is bad for the river. If someone is polluting the river, just by look at it, it is bad. Understood? So that is what they believe, that moral principles are known to humans by intuition only. You don't need logic, you don't need reasoning, you don't need any rational argument that why this thing is right or wrong. You just know it that it is right thing to do. For example, various people, the example that I gave you, the pollution of river. The scientific things, are recent thing only, the pollution, DO and everything. So suppose in the villages, you will not see people knowing of the scientific facts regarding river ecosystem and everything. And we can presume that there will be some group of people who are there who don't know. Still, if you go and pollute the river, they will understand that what you are doing is wrong. So without even knowing rationally or logically that what you are doing is wrong because it will, kill river ecosystem and everything, they will say that what you are doing is wrong. Understood? Suppose you go to a village, and there are two people, both these people, are illiterate persons, they have come to your house to do some work, and both of them has done the same work, the same amount of work and the same amount of time, both of them has done the same work. Then the natural expectation is that both of them should be paid the same amount of money. So it does not need any logical say that equal pay for equal work is the right. They don't need this. They don't need this logic. They don't need this reasoning. Just by intuition, they also know, and you also know that you have to pay them equally only. Understood or not? So even though it may not be recognized by law, even though they may not know the law, still it feels that what they are doing is, what they are demanding is right or fair only. So moral intuitionism is basically that moral knowledge is intuitive. Just by intuition you know. Just like you know the color, just like the mathematics, 2 plus 2 is 4, it is 2 plus 2 is 4 and 4. It is there. Just like equal pay for equal work, it should be there. You feel like doing it. Charity, you should help someone in distress. You just know it by heart. You don't need any logical explanation that whether it can become a universal law or what is the consequence of this. You don't go in that much greater detail. You just feel that it is the right thing and it is the wrong thing. And that is what is the perspective of moral intuitionism. That they believe that the moral knowledge is intuitive. Individuals just know it. Understood? So that is what it is written. We have an innate capacity to recognize moral truths directly through intuition rather than through observation or reasoning. We just know it. And this moral intuitionism basically, is an expression of moral realism also, that morals exist irrespective of whether we know them or not. Suppose someone has not seen blue color in his life, does not mean that blue color does not exist. Understood? So just because some people don't know them, irrespective of your personal belief, moral truth exists. They are real. It may be just that you don't know them yet. That is what it is written. Moral truth exists whether or not we can fully understand or articulate them. You know, for example, if two people do the same job, you know, they should be given equal pay. So they don't need the, you know, the knowledge of legal rights or the contractual law or the workers' right to actually make them pay the same amount for the same amount of work. It is just they know by themselves. So moral truths are self-evident, and it believes in pluralism because different people can have different intuition for what they believe is right. Tribals may believe that forests are important. We may believe that the money is important. So it believes in moral disagreements. It believes in moral pluralism. That different people can have different intuition. And it also recognizes the importance of reflection, that moral intuition can change with your own experience or your reasoning also with the time. For example, you know, even though we believe that you know, stealing is bad, but with later observation, we may say that stealing, if you have to survive, then it may be right also in some context. If someone is hungry, then we may justify it that yes, it is right thing to do. Basically, talk about Ashoka, you know, when he reflected himself, that his intuition also changed. His perspective towards war and violence changed. So moral intuition recognizes the role of reflection, that through experience, your intuition can also change. It recognizes the role of moral disagreement and pluralism. Different people on the basis of different upbringing may believe in different things being right and wrong. That is very much obvious. Understood or not? So that is what moral intuitionism is all about. And one of the great thinker of the moral intuitionism is G.E. Moore. You know, and he says that you know, if we define something in the context of some property, you know, then it is a naturalistic fallacy. You know, he says that if we try to define that if something is good, then it has to be right. You know, then it is the wrong way to define something. For example, all these ad campaigns, you know, they talk about that if burger is tasting good, it must be right. So burger may taste good, but it may not be the right thing to consume. Yes, having a puff of cigarette may feel good, but it may not be the right thing to do. So defining righteousness in the context of some property is actually naturalistic fallacy. That is what he is saying. That, you know, he argued against defining good in terms of natural properties like pleasure, desire. Something is giving you pleasure, if something is desirable, does not automatically make it the right thing. That is what it is saying. Understood? It does not make it a right thing. So how do we know what is the right thing? And of course, the same thing, because he comes from the moral intuitionism. We know it by intuition. We recognize good thing by intuition. Just as we recognize that this color is blue, just as we know that this color is blue, you know, it is self-evident. By intuition we know. Just as if we say, you know, that if someone is helping someone in need, you know, the altruism or a donation, if someone is doing that, we feel like doing it. We are helping the people who are in need. Then we just know it that it is the right thing to do. We are not contemplating that whether we can make it a universal law, or whether, you know, what are the consequences of what I am doing, you know, whether what this person will do with the money. You know, we are not contemplating on those consequences. We are simply doing it because we feel it is the right thing to do. Whenever a disaster is there, some people feel like donating the money because they believe it is the right thing to do. Intuition is telling them. They are not contemplating, you know, where will this money will go, the government will use it, you know, politician will, you know, take it for corruption and everything. They are not thinking from that perspective. They are simply feeling like that, you know, that if there is a crisis, there is distress, that they should help people. If someone is polluting river, then it is wrong only. You know, they need not know the scientific explanation of why this pollution is wrong, how it is killing the marine or the aquatic life. They need not know the reasoning aspect. They just know that it is wrong. So we do not define morality in the context of attribute. We just know the moral truth by intuition. So that is what intuition is all about. The intuition, you just know it because you know it. And this is very, very important, you know, and he gave this argument for Moore. You know, the reason alone does not uncover goodness, rather intuition does. So basically, you know, how do we get knowledge? So at times we get knowledge through reasoning, and at times we get knowledge through intuition also. We just know this is the right thing to do. Later on, we may justify it through reason that this pollution is wrong because it kill biodiversity and so forth. That charity is good because how we will feel if we were in this person's place and someone is not helping us. So that reasoning is the secondary aspect. Understood? So Moore is basically talking about that moral truths are again self-evident, the same thing that we have discussed. He's just a thinker from that school of thought. That we just know moral truth, not by reasoning. We are not looking at that this action is right because it is maximizing the pleasure. We are not looking from that perspective. He's against utilitarianism. He's against rationality, like Kant, that reason, we should reason think. He's against virtue ethics, that we should reason think. He's simply saying, you just know the truth. By intuition, you just know the truth. So basically, he is opening another window of getting the right thing or getting to know the right thing. That is your intuition. Apart from logic, apart from this, it is talking about trust your intuition. Something that is as accessible, reasoning, you may not be in a position to reason, you may not have time, reasoning, or you may not have time to contemplate with respect to consequences, but at times you just go by your gut feeling, you just go by your instinct. That is what intuition is all about. So intuition is very, very discussed in the context of limitation of objectivity also. Yes, limitation of objectivity, that objectivity, may not suffice in terms of taking decision. Rationality may not suffice in terms of taking decision because you may not have facts, you may not have time to process those facts, you may not have time to logic and reason and everything, and at times there may be contradictory facts. How will you take decision then? Then you have to follow your intuition. So that is why the essay topic that was there, that visionary decision making happens at the intersection of logic and intuition. Understood or not? So that is a perspective of moral intuitionism, that some people know the truth just by they know that it is the right thing to do, and is asking you to have a more direct access to morality than relying on, let's say, rationality, logic, and something like that. Understood? So when MS Dhoni promoted himself in 2011 World Cup, in World Cup final, then he acted out of instinct. Now, later he justified that decision that I promoted myself because I had played against Muthaiya Muralidharan in Chennai Super King and I know I can, tackle him better. So later he tried to justify that through reason, through fact that I played Muthaiya Muralidharan. Another fact was that he had a very miserable World Cup. He did not perform. Before final, he did not perform. Yuvraj Singh was performing like anything. So now he had two facts to look at. One is that he was not performing that well in the entire World Cup. The recent form was in question. Another fact is that he had played with Muthaiya Muralidharan before because of Chennai Super King and net practice, everything that he was doing. So later he went by his gut that I should promote myself. So that is why rationality, it may not give you proper guidance, and at times you just act out of your instinct, act out of your intuition. Understood? The novel COVID virus that was there, then lot many experiments were done in terms of treatment because we did not know much about the COVID virus. It was a novel virus. So lot many experiments were done, lot many things were justified in the name of intuition only. The remdesivir and the plasma therapy and everything. Later on, everything was proved rationally that it was not effective. But scientific community tried that. So basically, lot of things goes into decision making when we feel this is the right thing to do, and that is intuition only. So intuition is a way of moral knowledge or knowledge, and we need not always rely on rationality because rationality may not help you all the time. I just give you the example of MS Dhoni that you have two contradictory facts. Which one will you choose? Understood? This part understood or not, that rationality has limitation, facts have limitation, intuition is also necessary. Have you understood or not? And of course, intuition is shaped by experiences. Of course, intuition is shaped by experience. The doctors who promoted plasma therapy, of course, that thing would have come with experience only. Understood? So that is what we believe. And another important thing that he says is that, a whole can be more valuable than sum of its part. This quotation can come as it is in the examination. That whole can be more valuable than sum of its part. So basically he's saying that overall, if you're looking at a forest ecosystem, if you look at it, then yes, it is a collection of trees, it is a connection of, let's say, biotic community and abiotic community, yes. So if you just disintegrate that, it is animals, it is forest, it is something else. But forest as an ecosystem is much, much more than that. So when all these things are combined, we see so many type of services that they provide, recreation services, regulative services. We have, gone through them in the environmental prelims. So together, they actually create a much, much more meaningful relationship. We talk about New Zealand, New Zealand does not have lot many star players, but collectively when it performs like anything. Recently also defeated India like anything. Even though we had lot many great stars. Understood? So whole is more valuable than sum of its part, because the organic linkages, they add lot of value. This thing can also be used in the context of emotional intelligence. That it is emotional intelligence that will allow you, to make 1 + 1 as 11 rather than only 2. Understood? So you can also relate that with the team effort on emotional intelligence, this particular statement. And that is what he says, that certain things, they are intrinsically good and the whole is greater than sum of its part. So intuition, basically he's talking about that you know what is right thing to do just by your intuition. Understood? Of course, limitation is there, lot of subjectivity is there. We cannot rely on it because our intuition can also change with the time. At times we feel this is right, at times we feel this is right. So it cannot be a reliable source of guidance all the time. And of course, lack of methodology. There is no methodology. Kant gave us methodology that law should become universal law. Those are the tests that you have to follow. But there is no methodology. John Rawls gave us methodology. The wheel of ignorance should be there when you are arriving at a moral law. But there is no methodology on intuition. It is just leaving us, to ourselves only that what is the right thing to do. Understood? Understood or not? So moral intuitionalism is basically telling you that you know by instinct what is the right thing to do. It is opening another way of knowing the body of knowledge, what is the right thing to do apart from reasoning, analysis and everything. It is telling you that you just know it. And in a way, it is asking you to be morally responsible because ultimately in your heart, you know what you are doing is right or not. So in case study, you can criticize that heart, criticize any option, that this option is unethical, this option has demerit, because ultimately, moral intuitionism, by the moral intuition, I know that this option is wrong. And my conscience will tell me that this option is wrong ultimately. So no amount of logic, no amount of analysis, can make this option good for me. Understood? Understood or not? So that is how you can quote moral intuitionism. That just by intuition you know that this is the right thing to do or this is the wrong thing to do. And that is why you talk about whistleblowing. In whistleblowing, you can justify that at the end that, no matter, I know the consequence, I may be killed or something like that. But if I remain silent, then I will be guilty of not following my moral intuition. And that is that I should blow the whistle. Because otherwise, I will have a lot of guilt. And I cannot live with that choice. So that is how you can justify all such action in the name of moral intuition. Understood or not? Of course, we will be arguing also, we will be giving reasons also, that is a separate post. But moral intuition, that is how you can use that. Understood or not? Understood? Another important thinker is David Ross. David Ross. He also, comes from the school of deontological ethics also, and also moral intuitionalism. Deontological ethics because he talks about doing your duty. He talks about doing your duty, and but unlike Kant, he does not make it rigid. He says that there are some prima facie duty. There are certain prima facie duties, like duties of fidelity, that we should be honest and loyal to someone. Reparation, if we have done something wrong, then we should be held accountable for that. We should amend that wrong. Gratitude, self-explanatory. Non-injury, we should not harm people. Then beneficial, we should help people. Self-improvement, we should try to improve. And justice, fairness. Understood? So usually, these are the duties, prima facie, these are the duties of every human being. And everyone knows them through intuition. That's how he's come from that school of moral intuitionism, because he says that we know this duty by intuition, and at first glance they appear that they are our primary duty, that we have to be loyal to our relationship, we should not harm people, we should try to help people, we should be fair, we should pursue justice, and we should try to improve ourselves, etc., etc. That just by look at it, just at the face of it, prima facie, through intuition, we know that these are our primary duties. But that's how he adds that since we know they are our primary duty, but they are not rigid, because at times, the duties may come in conflict with each other. We talk about whistleblowing. In whistleblowing, the fidelity may come in context with justice. Fidelity, loyalty to the organization may come in context with fairness to the larger employer, larger customers. Or in the context of non-injury, that the organization might be doing something that may be injurious to the customers, like developing a drug, bypassing some of the standards. So fidelity versus non-injury, it can come in conflict. So basically, when you are doing that, the doctors, when they are doing a surgery, it may come, suppose a surgery is there and it is very much invasive in nature, it may have side effect, but doctor believe it can help also. So your beneficence, your duty to help someone is coming in conflict with the another duty to not harm that person. So then perhaps you will try for little less invasive methods of helping that person. So that's what he is saying, that prima facie we know all these things, but there is no single overriding moral principle like Kant, like maximizing happiness in the case of utilitarianism, or in the categorical imperative in the case of Kant. Instead, he argued that we have multiple, often competing moral duties that require careful judgment to balance. So he basically is talking about that ultimately we have to decide that what is the right duty in the right circumstances, and actual duty may be different than the duties that we know. So intuitionism, he is supporting that we can know our prima facie duty intuitively or through moral sense, that we know that this is what we will do. So basically, again, he is a deontologist from the perspective that he is talking about following your duty, but at the same time, he is following moral intuitionism in the sense that ultimately, in complex circumstances, when one duty is overriding another, your heart knows what is the right duty, what is the most actual duty that you have to do, and then one duty will prioritize over other. Understood or not? So that is what David Ross is saying. So basically, he offers a very practical way of morality, that ultimately you do what you feel is right thing to do, and in different contexts, different duty may take, precedence over other duties. So he is deontological from the perspective that he's talking about duty, but he's talking about contextually sensitive things that your duty may change also. He's not talking about that universally you have to maximize happiness or you have to follow categorical imperative all the time. He's very much flexible in that. And of course, moral intuitionism, they have to be flexible. The broad school of ethics. That is what we discussed in the first slide. Here the line was written that they believe in moral pluralism. They believe in moral disagreement, because my intuition can be different than your intuition. Understood or not? So that is what is the perspective of moral intuitionism, that they just know the things by heart, that this is what is the right thing to do. The question came, moral intuition versus moral reasoning. So moral intuition versus moral reasoning, the difference now perhaps you can write. Understood? So now you please note it. From overall, only 3-4 things you need to remember. Okay, only 3-4 things. So many content has been given just to make you understand and everything. 3-4 thing is that to know what is right, at times you need to rely on intuition, because reason, everything may not come and help you. Yes, there is another way of knowing what is the right thing to do. So that is what moral intuition is all about. Second, the statement of Moore that sum is greater than the whole is greater than sum of its part. That is a very great statement that can be asked anytime by the UPSC. Okay, so now you can write the answer from his perspective. And also, when you are criticizing Kant's categorical imperative, then you can quote David Ross, that he gave this perspective that duties can be known by intuition and it can be contextually sensitive. That he improved on the deontological version of Kant by providing this context-specific flexibility. Understood? So now you please note. And these are the same thing only that they have said. Yes, but through different ways. Yes. That we will discuss. Consciousness we will discuss. Basically, moral intuition is the ultimate product of your conscience. That is a product of that. But we will discuss that later. How is moral intuition continuation? Through experience, through reasoning, through everything. Sir, isn't whole equal to sum of the parts? I did not understand that quote. But I think I've discussed that, Shubhangi. Did you attend the emotional intelligence class? The same thing I said there also. If I remember, I said the same thing. I gave this New Zealand example. Did you attend the emotional intelligence class? When I was talking about the difference between IQ and EQ, and I told you that how if you have 11 people who are having great IQ, let's say the IQ is 100, then collectively you will not have 1100 IQ, if they are lacking EQ. EQ will allow them to explore more, that will be greater than 1100 IQ. Collectively they will achieve much more than individually. PPT is not blur. Anyway, I will give you this in your notes. Understood? Shubhangi, understood? The same thing has been said by them, the other thinkers, but you can quote them. This thing you can relate with the emotions. That's just because something you feel pleasurable, something is good, may not be the right thing to do. The same right versus right. There also you can quote that. Just because you feel some entitlement may not be the right thing to do. You may have naturalistic fallacy. Yes, you can write about that. Lack of methodology means that we don't know that how do we arrive at intuition. There is a lack of methodology. I cannot teach you that how you arrive at intuition. Just like John Rawls has given us method, like when you are deciding in policy, then you have to act under wheel of ignorance. Just like Kant has given you a method that when you are deciding on categorical imperative, that you have to test whether it can become a universal law. There is a method in terms of, just like Bentham has given that you have to maximize the happiness for everyone, pleasure and pain, calculus and everything. There is no method of intuition. So that we know that how my intuition is stronger than your intuition. There is no method. Nothing that is what methodology means. Done? That is the name of the book actually, where Moore has discussed all these things. Intuition you can use in your case study, You can always use them in your case study. Done? Yes. That's a very good example, Sohani. Using subsidies on LPG despite being able to afford it. That is example of right versus right. Even though you are entitled for it, you should not use it. That's a very good example, Sohani, sorry. Sir, how does one justify the intuition case study then? Because you say ultimately, suppose you are, in the case of whistleblowing, you are working in the pharmaceutical industry and the company is bypassing the due process of making a drug, the drug is not that effective. And then ultimately you can justify that it through a moral intuition that it is the right thing to do and you will follow with the whistleblowing only. Of course, that is one way of justification. Other justification will be reasoning only. Yes, you can use that, Udit. Please watch the earlier lectures. Don't join the lectures in between. Done? Okay. Next important strand is care ethics. And the name is clear. Care ethics will talk about caring of people. Yes. Shall I start? Okay, so care ethics, basically focuses on compassion. It focuses on individual well-being. It focuses on emotions. It views emotions as something that can help you in making the right decision, rather than viewing as emotions as liability. So that is what care ethics is all about. And when it's talking about individual, it is focusing a lot not just on the individualistic perspective, but also the relation that individual is having with the people around him. So basically it is having a broader perspective. It is having a broader perspective with respect to relations. Suppose a doctor has to decide, the patient has come to the doctor, and it is saying that the treatment that you have to follow for your well-being, and patient is saying, because it is costly, it is saying that no, I will not be following the treatment because it is so costly and so. And the doctor, should not just take that at a face value. That's what care ethics is all about. He should look at that perspective, that perhaps he's taking the decision in the context of relations. Perhaps he has obligation towards daughter who is still unmarried, perhaps obligation towards wife, obligation towards family, and that is why he is not going ahead with the treatment. So his autonomy should not be seen from the individualistic perspective. Care ethics will ask you that you have a more holistic perspective in which you take into account the relationship that person is having. So basically, it is asking you that you have a holistic perspective towards the person. So that is what relational autonomy. In care ethics, autonomy is seen as relational rather than individualistic. So if person is deciding that no, I will not be getting the treatment, then you have to consider the relations and the entire perspective behind his decision, and then you should take the decision. Understood? Here, the emphasis is on emotion and empathy, because emotions, empathy is seen that is very much necessary. You talk about certain role like nurses, like doctors, in certain roles, empathy and compassion become very, very important. It becomes so care ethics actually ask you that when you are dealing with the people who are come from vulnerable section of society or who are in pain, then you should be empathetic towards them. You should take care of them. The example of Mother Teresa, that how she treated the people with leprosy. Not many people were touching them. They were believing that it is because of their bad karma that they have got leprosy and everything. But she treated them with utmost care. So care ethics will ask you that you have the emotions and empathy when you are dealing with the people, and that morality should be context specific. There is no universal theory, because you need to recognize emotions. Every individual is in different context, and that is why you need to understand their perspective, their context, their emotions when you are making the judgment. So basically it is asking you that you be more empathetic towards the people. For example, if you're dealing with the tribals, you understand their perspective as well. In the context of vaccine hesitancy, when the tribals were hesitant towards vaccine because they believe that the modern treatments are not good for them and everything, then if you are truly caring for them, then you should be compassionate about them. You should understand their perspective, and from their perspective only you should try to change their attitude, rather than imposing your worldview on them. So that is what it is saying, that you must be careful, you must be context specific in what you are doing. Understood? Can I discuss another related concept? So in tribals, the illiteracy is very high. Illiteracy is very high because their worldview is shaped by their folklores, their folk stories, their methods or whatever they are believing. So when you give the curriculum that we are having, like NCERT, it will not make sense to them because they have not heard of them. They have not heard of those symbols. They have not heard of those taxonomy that we are using. Understood? So that is why one of the reform that is suggested is that we should make curriculum that is very much contextual towards the tribal, so that they can also understand what we are teaching them. Some So that is very, very important. To give you a very general and simple example, suppose I am teaching you some any moral lesson by using Ramayana or Mahabharata, then I am under assumption that all of you know Ramayana and Mahabharata, because I am not telling you the story of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Yes, but what if you don't know Ramayana and Mahabharata? So tribals are that, they don't know lot of context that is written in the NCERT books, when they are discussing the concept. And that is why they are not able to make sense of what they are reading. And that is why illiteracy, everything is high. And that is why suggestion is that we should make curriculum that is specific to their context. So care ethics will ask you to do that you understand their context when you are actually helping them, rather than imposing your worldview. Understood? So that is what care ethics is. Then it is asking you that you be responsible. And if you are relationships, so many relationships are there, family, then you be responsible. And in every relationship, if you are father, mother, whatever role that you are having, basically you have certain responsibility, and you should discharge your responsibility with respect to your relationships you are having. So it is not asking you that you be individualistic in what you are doing. It is actually asking you, care ethics is actually asking you that you should take care of the relationship that you are having. It is asking you to be responsible in your relationship, with respect to your parents, with respect to your children, with respect to your wife, with respect to, your other relationships. So that is what it is asking you. It emphasizes responsibilities that emerges from the specific relationships. That it is asking you that you cannot remain aloof. You cannot simply focus that, I will be focusing on career only all the time. You have certain familiar responsibility. So care ethics will ask you that, yes, that is what you need to look at. This context you can always write when you are writing answer in the disintegration of families. That families are disintegrating, working parents are there, and that is why at times they are not able to take care of the child. And there you can give the argument that care ethics will ask the parents that they have a family responsibility towards their children, and that is what they should not forget, even though both of them are working. Understood? And then of course, avoidance of harm, that you should avoid the things that can harm people. The non-malfeasance principle that we have already discussed. And, we should pay special attention to people who are vulnerable. So basically, care ethics will asking you that we should be more compassionate. We should value our relationships. We should value our responsibility. All those relationships comes with certain set of responsibility, and we should value them. We should, we should implement them. So that is what care ethics is all about. So whenever you are discussing family, whenever you are discussing vulnerable section, whenever you are discussing, the action that require compassion, you can always quote the word care ethics. That care ethics is asking us that this is what we should do. Understood or not? Yes? So now you can please note it. Mother Teresa is a great example. NGOs who are doing so many great things, a great example. Shravan Kumar is a great example. That he is discharging his family responsibility, something like that. People who are taking care of the elderly are a great example. ये कैसे चल गया? मन नहीं लग रहा था पढ़ने में, चला लिया, अपने आप ओपन हो गया. मैंने तो बोला ही नहीं, हे सिरी ओपन द यूट्यूब. Care ethics is actually asking you contextual, tribals. If you want to help them, the literacy is a very good example of them. If you want tribals to be literate, then you have to provide the contextual curriculum. You cannot impose your worldview on them. Understood? So that is what care ethics will ask you, that you understand their worldview. Tribal Panchshil, the same example. And it is asking you that you don't become individualistic, that you take care of the relationship that you are having, the disintegration of the family, that you have certain responsibility, certain ethical responsibility towards them. That is what it is asking. Understood? In merit you can write, but in that you are talking about only the relationship with the family, the other relationship also, with the people whom you are serving. Yes. When did I say that? तो गलत क्यों समझ रहे हो? I am just saying that the individualistic, the autonomy, whatever you are deciding, whatever action you are having, that action, when I am looking at your decision making, I should not look at it from your perspective only. Since you have relations also, you are someone's daughter, you are someone's sister, so you may be taking decision based on your concern for them also. That okay, I will not study anymore because already a lot of money has been wasted, for example, and and I need to support my family by reducing the expenditure. So I must help you. If I am talking about you, if I want to help you, I must understand the perspective of your family as well, your relation as well. So autonomy is not individualistic from that sense. I need to look at the relationship as well, your relationship. So basically, it will make me more contextually aware. It will make me more aware that what you are doing and why you are doing that. So only then I can help you in a more pragmatic manner.
Sir, if doctor is not treating patient, like who is there?
When did I say?
No, I am asking.
Huh.
So like,
That is not care ethics. See, this is a very narrow example of that the person not able to pay, because many other perspectives will also come into the play. Usually it is saying that he should help the patient. And when he's helping the patient, he should look at things in a very holistic manner. You talk about psychologists, when people go to them, if they are suffering any mental health issues, so when they are discussing their mental health issues with the psychologist, so they don't just talk about them per se, that what you are doing today. They will talk about the family as well. They talk about relationship as well, because it will have impact on our mental health well-being. So you should have broader understanding of your patient. That is what care ethics is saying. Understood? Done? David Ross, okay. Done? You can quote David Ross in the context of criticism of Kant, and also, when you are quoting the duties that you know by intuition. Kanak, at times it can be complementary, at times it can be in contradiction. There is no universal answer. But care ethics is asking you that you go beyond yourself, that you take care of your family responsibility, that you should not be like that, I am following career only and I am not taking care of my parents. That I will give you, Divya. Okay? So I think here we should stop, because I should not introduce any more concept. It will take a lot of time. Okay? So just go home and revise and start. Shall we start the revision of whatever we have discussed? Because since we are approaching the end of the syllabus. Yes? Okay, so you revise the first unit that we discussed. So initial 5-10 minutes we will devote towards that. Okay? So first unit, that was ethics and human interface. Okay, so you revise that. Last 6-7 lectures you will revise that, so that when you... सर क्लास तो 8 बजे तक है, आपने टाइम कैसे दे दिया 8 बजे का? किसी को टाइम कैसे दिया 8 बजे का? वही तो पूछ रहा हूँ. 15 मिनट का गैप तो रखा करो कि 7:15 बजे आना, मैं तब मैं फ्री होऊंगा. चलो, so that when we आपका सेम थिंग, फ्लाइट है 10 बजे फ्लाइट है, भागो फिर. Okay, so कहाँ पे थे? So that when you start answer writing, till that we have revised amongst ourselves also. So you start revising ethics and human interface, the first unit, and we will cover slowly every other thing. Okay? Okay, bye-bye, take care.